Oh yeah, so it's me first. So basically, I'm doing the worst takes from the Israel invasion of Israel, the war in Israel, the Hamas attacks in Israel. Let me just pull this up.
I'm sure there'll be lots of celebrities giving very sensible and nuanced takes. They've read up on the subject. They've picked a side because of all the decent reasons, and not because everyone's
not
talking
because
about
it's the thing that you're supposed to do.
Well, yeah, you think so, but Justin Bieber has got a lot of flack for this. Basically, he posted a thing saying praying for Israel, but that's a picture of Gaza.
I mean, maybe he knew that and he's praying for Israel to destroy Gaza.
That is the thing. This could just be an absolute top level tier Zionist troll. This is maybe Justin Bieber is just playing 4D chess with all of us.
Bieberwitz.
And he's saying like, listen, Gaza is part of Israel, and that's
free to Israel.
Or maybe he's just thick. Maybe he's just thick and he used a photo of Gaza instead.
I wondered where you were going with this. Like, I thought it was going to be people being like, I love murder or something. But that is just genuine stupidity on a level that's brilliant.
Well, the thing is, that's like somebody else's post. You can see because it's got the little thing in the corner where it shows that he's just copied it off somebody else. So this is for mass consumption, and he's just shared it, not knowing what he's talking about. And you can be guaranteed thousands and thousands of other retards will have done the exact same thing.
Yeah. There's been some funny memes mocking the sort of social media responses. I saw one that was like, what TikTok dance you should do to show support for Hamas. And it's not far away from the truth. From what people are really like.
I hope there's a counter one for the TikTok dances for the IDF as well.
Yeah, there's bound to be.
Well, truly, I wish to hear from those who are NPC TikTokers and see what emojis they're adding to stand with either side. Beheading so good. I don't know. that was too gross. I don't know why I did that. Just joke.
Yeah. And if we move on to the next one, we do have a celebrity saying some nasty things.
But, I mean, to be clear to anyone who thinks
Khalifa,
we're being crass or anything, real quick though. I mean, this is what we're dealing with though when it comes to the celebrity views on anything. It's always something so blunt, like not useful to the conversation whatsoever. Well, yeah, and kind of just a pain in the ass. And with that, let's go to Mia Khalifa.
Yeah, because of the cultural position these people occupy. People put them on a pedestal, and you're like, oh, these people must know what they're talking about. No, more often than not, these people are more stupid than your average normie on the street. These people have some kind of brain worm that they get infected with to be able to get the success that they have done.
Yeah, well, Mia Khalifa managed to actually be less classy when she was talking about the invasion of Israel than when she was getting paid to suck strangers' cocks. So she made a series of posts basically praising Hamas, calling them like resistance fighters. We scroll down, we can see.
Wouldn't they kill her?
Oh, 100%. She'd be beheaded for a lifestyle. She'd be beheaded.
Like, she has spoken about this in interviews, that she still gets death threats for that scene she did in a hijab.
Yeah, I was going to say, she's most famous for doing the hijab scene, and they want to kill her for that.
So one of her
that doesn't work. I can't sit here and be like, I don't watch porn. That's not going to...
One of her tweets said, this is one of the first ones, and this was right when it kicked off. So at this point, Israel hadn't dropped any bombs in Gaza or anything. She said, if you can look at the situation in Palestine and not be on the side of Palestinians, then you're on the wrong side of apartheid, and history will show that in time. Just crazy stuff. And she also, she tweeted a whole bunch of posts. One of them was about requesting Hamas terrorists to film in horizontal instead of portrait. I
thought that was a meme. Is that real?
I mean, that's...
Guys, you need to stop being such boomers.
I didn't know she said that. Jesus Christ.
I thought that was a piss take.
No, that was a real thing.
If you're going to kill babies, at least.
Yeah, we'll see the footage in horizontal.
Oh, no.
It'll look better on my TV. So she'd been fired by Playboy. Actually, I saw a funny joke. So she's a victim of cancel culture. But I saw a funny joke about Mia Khalifa. It was talking about how she's such a devout Muslim. She often has her face covered by other men.
Oh, that's good.
Heyo. The next one is something that will definitely be described as a war crime by The Guardian. So this is somebody trying to burn an Israeli flag. We'll just watch this, see how it works out for them.
So he's got the fire going. Massive Israeli flag there.
Yeah.
All right.
All his friends stand
Oh,
around with COVID masks for some reason.
Whoa!
Oh,
He's
dear.
on fire, and he's covered in molten plastic that's on fire. He's napalmed
Oof.
himself.
I should explain to YouTube before we get censored. He's still alive, so no one was actually harmed in the making.
He's
of this
not
video.
yet.
Oh,
a
no
martyr.
one was harmed, and if they were, it was
Just made to look like a prat.
yeah, it was completely self-harm, self-owning. But yeah, it was crazy the amount of, I couldn't believe the amount of people who came out just on the, I mean, because you think, especially when it had just happened, before there'd been any attacks on Gaza, you'd be like, well, this is pretty obviously brutal and horrific. You know, you can't, there's no justification for, like, you know, killing children, burning teenagers at a music festival, burning innocent civilians. But yeah, Black Lives Matter. Various chapters of Black Lives Matter came out in support. This is BLM Chicago, and they said, I stand with Palestine. But no, they've got the parachute thing. That's a reference to the Hamas fighters who flew into Israel, flew into that music festival on these motorized paraglider things. It's like a big parachute with a big fan on the back. I think they're sponsored by Wile E. Coyote or something.
I know it's insensitive, but it really does remind me of that SpongeBob episode.
Yeah,
with Patrick, you know, parachuting down to the Krusty Krab.
yeah, and it's like they filmed, Hamas have filmed these like glossy, slick ISIS style videos where, you know, they're like, this is our Air Force, and it's like, mate, you've got like fucking parachutes with fans on the back, a fan you got from, you know, Wilco or whatever,
From the Acme company.
This isn't. You're not that's not an F-16.
But also, that's the thing I don't get. And then you remember like that Ukraine thing that everyone was interested in a couple of days ago,
Yeah.
and all the war crimes that came out of
was
the war
Ukraine.
there that everyone was horrified by. It's amazing at how civilized the Ukrainian war looks by comparison to what Hamas did. I mean, like, they're just turning up and just, I'm going to glorify killing civilians. It's like,
Yeah,
most people try and deny war crimes or are kind of embarrassed or just
yeah,
don't say anything. You guys put them on your front page.
yeah. I mean, Russia has committed some horrific war crimes. Obviously, a lot of them are done at a distance. They're using cruise missiles and stuff to blow up, you know, hospitals,
It's like
and civilian blocks and stuff.
Collateral
But-
damage or something you're embarrassed about, or you discipline people.
Yeah,
It's
no,
never-
I mean, Russia's deliberately targeted civilians, but I mean, I guess the difference is Hamas are super proud of it and like deliberately do it and film it and then present the footage to the world, being like, look at this thing that we did. Look how we beheaded this Thai immigrant who's working in Israel.
And then BLM are like, wow, that's our guys.
Yeah, BLM are like, this is decolonization. And like all these woke words that, you know, the woke left are using all this stuff, decolonization, systemic oppression, to justify absolute barbarism against civilians.
That's because that was what they want to do against people like us when they talk about decolonization. They see this and they go, see, this is what we've meant the whole time. You guys have just been reading into it.
BLM would ideally want Native Americans to rise up and start executing children at a kindergarten in Ohio. It's, you know, that's
Like,
the
you
end
can
goal.
see
That's
the Twitter
dream for
post.
them. Yeah.
You can see the Twitter post being like, you know, finally.
Yeah.
decolonization.
This is where the decolonization process has started.
I mean, remember that obviously this is the big thing in the news cycle right now. This is the big thing that everybody is talking about. But earlier on this year, March, whatever it was, there was the shooting in the Christian school done by a trans-identified shooter who
Yeah.
supposedly wrote a manifesto about it that never got released to the
Still
public.
can't see
The
it.
media has hushed it up and they don't report on it anymore. Nobody talks about it anymore. That was, as far as I'm concerned, a domestic terrorist attack within the US.
Yeah.
Nowhere near as big a stink made about it as something that, as far as I'm concerned, is an ethnic conflict going on between two groups that I don't identify with halfway across the world. It's that's just my piece on that.
Yeah. No, that trans shooting was is nuts because straight away a lot of people came out, a lot of celebs, a lot of woke leftists came out and were like, "Oh, don't forget the real victims here, the victims of transphobia from the backlash." And it's like, what about the actual victims?
Yep.
What about the kids that are still bleeding out on the?
It's the Norm
floor?
Macdonald joke. What if a Muslim set off a bomb that killed 50 million innocent people? Imagine the backlash against the innocent Muslims.
yeah.
That's what it is, because they support this kind of action. They want you dead.
Yeah. And if we move on, so BLM Grassroots said Black Lives Matter Grassroots stands in solidarity with our Palestinian family who are currently resisting 57 years of settler colonialism and apartheid. As Black people continue the fight to end militarism and mass incarceration in our own communities, let us understand the resistance in Palestine as an attempt to tear down the gates of the world's largest open-air prison. It's nothing like a prison. It's actually got quite a bit of space compared to, everybody's like, it's the most overcrowded place in the world. It's not. As a radical black organization grounded in abolitionist ideas, we see clear parallels between black and Palestinian people. If you
Their
want to say
favorite
so.
abolitionist idea being kill them all.
Yeah.
So in the last 24 hours, we saw a bunch of guys kill a bunch of Israeli civilians, and we kind of see a bit of ourselves in them.
Yeah.
Most of ourselves, actually.
Yeah.
And these are the sorts of people that stand by those who are saying that after the American Civil War, the biggest problem with Reconstruction is we just didn't murder all of the Southerners that were left alive. That's the attitude they take.
We should actually probably take some joy in this, because we were saying for ages that Black Lives Matter are not for Black lives. They're these friggin' lunatics.
They just hate white people. For the
and
most
now
part.
we just have them saying, yeah, we would kill you if we could.
They're openly saying it. But I mean, people are so indoctrinated these days. They'll be like, no, we deserve it. Here's some more money. So you can buy another mansion. They continue. We too understand what it means to be surveilled, dehumanized, property seized, families separated, our people criminalized and slaughtered with impunity, locked up in droves. And when we resist, they call us terrorists. We too.
I kill babies as well.
When we drive through Christmas parades and set off bombs and burn down cities, they call us terrorists.
You terrorists. Surely that's the real crime that's going on. Like Hamas are being called terrorists. We too dream of a world where our people may live freely on decolonized land. May the borders, checkpoints, prisons, police, and watch lists that terrorize our communities crumble. And may the world we build from their ashes honor those who have fallen in struggle. So that's the world they've got planned for us. And also UK, the British branch of BLM, said solidarity, and this is still up there. They haven't taken this down. Solidarity with those resisting Israeli war crimes and military occupation. We see free Palestine and support the practical solidarity of PAL action. So
they kill us too, right?
Yeah, basically. Even though, we've got a much smaller black population and they weren't brought here as slaves. They
literally abolished slavery globally, but the thanks we get is killed.
British blood was spilled abolishing slavery. British money was...
And a lot of money was spent.
A lot of money, yeah.
2015, I think, is when we finished paying all of that off.
Yeah, it's nuts. So obviously there's been a bit of a backlash to Black Lives Matter because of these posts which didn't go down too well. So there's this guy, for example, David Weissman. So it shows what he was posting a couple of years ago. I will never stop saying Black Lives Matter, and I may even get a shirt myself. Scroll on a couple of years, and he's saying, "Fuck them. Maybe the right was right about Black Lives Matter." Hey, guess what? We're right about everything.
What do you mean they don't, pick and choose between which white people they hate? They just hate all of them. Damn.
And if we move on to the next one, so his lefty mates are replying to him. He says, "David, oh my God, please stop with this. People on the right, or who used to be on the right, seem to want to jump to the worst case scenario about BLM. It's like BLM are literally cheering on Hamas. They're literally cheering on people like killing civilians and children and just people having a party at a music festival. And it's not Glastonbury, so it's bad. It's, this. I just don't know how anybody could look at BLM and be like, oh, no, they're still great. Why are you criticizing them?
Clearly the right are trying to mislead us by showing us BLM's quotes.
Yeah.
It's like libs of TikTok sharing all of those videos the leftists put out themselves. This is terrorism.
And another, this is in the UK, so Bella Wallersteiner, she says, just about a month ago, she said, "We have a Hindu Prime Minister, a Muslim Mayor of London, a Buddhist Home Secretary, and a Muslim First Minister of Scotland. Britain's multicultural society is remarkable, and we should celebrate it," Suella Braverman. A couple of weeks later, having seen one of the cultures come out waving Palestinian flags, cheering the terrorist atrocities,
will be the Mayor of London
Israel
and the First Minister of Scotland, maybe.
Yeah, she said, "I've left as it didn't feel safe." She was obviously at a protest. "I tried speaking to a few protesters, making the point that it was totally inappropriate to hold a demonstration of this kind after a heinous terrorist attack. As you can imagine, I didn't get very far. I advise people avoid the area." Well,
it's like there's a no-go zone as a result.
You joke about, the First Minister of Scotland maybe being in that process. He did confirm that he has family in Gaza right now, didn't he?
Yeah. And he was on the phone to them. His main concern seemed to be his international roaming fees.
I saw a great photo, AI image that Kundli Drukpa put out of, him on one side, and on the other side there was just a pale white ginger Scotsman in a kilt in the middle of like being bombed in Gaza, going, "Ach, I can't believe it."
I love the idea there's any conflict in the Muslim world, and the camera just pans to Britain and just going. It's like, oh boy.
But yeah, also the IDF. People are saying, "Oh, Israel is just indiscriminately bombing Gaza," and like, I've no doubt they're obviously hitting. A lot of civilians are getting caught in the bombing because Israel apparently didn't even know this attack was coming. So how they're doing precise strikes on just military outposts in the Gaza Strip baffles me, because they didn't have the intelligence to even know this was happening. But they do give warnings. They say vacate this area of the Gaza Strip. So they're a bit like the IRA phoning up a pub before.
Well, they send a small bomb beforehand, which means get out.
Right.
So you bomb the roof with something that's not going to kill anyone, which is leave, please.
Right.
And then 10 minutes later, the big bomb comes.
Right.
So
there's a little bit of warning. But yeah, obviously, I mean, there's the deaths in Gaza are horrific. I mean, unless they're killing, unless they're
combatants, then go for it.
Yeah, unless they're combatants,
that's war.
Then it's good. Then it's war. Moving on, the Football Association says it's not going to light the Wembley Arch with the colours of the Israel flag. So they did do this with Ukraine.
Oh no, how is Israel going to survive now, guys? The war is lost.
But I think it's a symbol of solidarity. But their excuse is quite interesting, because they say the quiet part out loud. It says the Football Association is unlikely to light the Wembley Arch in the colours of the Israel flag because of fears of a backlash from some communities. Some communities, eh?
The Israelis.
So it's interesting to see our institutions cowering before these some communities.
There we are.
And
want to guess what the largest ethnic group in Wembley is?
Is
Irish.
No.
Icelandic.
Bangladesh.
Ah,
right.
So Islamic there.
I never would have guessed.
There we are.
And how much as a proportion of the population?
About a third. Oh, that's in 2001. It's been 20 years.
So about 99.
Yeah, about 99%.
Right.
Something like that.
Nuts. Because this is the thing. We're seeing pretty rapid demographic change. We're seeing a lot of immigration from Muslim countries.
But it would never have an impact, we were told.
And now, only a positive impact. The impact was only ever going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Foreigners, they don't have opinions on international politics. They just like cooking food for us.
Yeah. We just get the spicy food, and any sort of strange ideas or any historical grudges get left behind, and everybody starts a new life. And you certainly don't see any fighting between those communities once they're in the UK. Novara Media Novara Media is a sort of it's like Lotus eaters for wankers. They've got
that's fair.
It's a good way of describing it. Yeah,
they've got it's subscription service, and it's really sort of hard left. The guy who runs it, Aaron Bastani, he's always seemed like a nice, open guy. But some of the journalists are just like Rivka Brown.
I don't get Novara, because Aaron does seem like a decent guy, but he hires insane people.
Yeah. And you've got to judge people on their actions as much as how they come across. And yeah, Rivka Brown, and there's other people. Michael Walker, who works for Novara, has tweeted some just horrific. And the thing is, like, man, it's right after the invasion, when we're still seeing in real time, people are getting killed in Israel, and they're tweeting this horrific stuff about, this is decolonization, people rising up and breaking free and blah, blah, blah. And it's not. It's just, man, it's just horrible.
We're talking about civilian death.
Horrible Islamic militants, terrorists funded by Iran, just callously and calculatedly and unnecessarily killing civilians. And it was totally counterproductive to the best, what's best for the people of Gaza. And it's really just to do. They're hired mercenaries. They're hired by Iran. They're getting money from other parts of the Muslim world. But yeah, Rivka Brown said today, and this is the day it started. She said today should be a day of celebration for supporters of democracy and human rights worldwide, as Gazans break out of their open air prison and Hamas fighters cross into their colonizers' territory. The struggle for freedom is rarely bloodless, and we shouldn't apologize for it. Now, she says It's a great day for democracy and human rights. Guess what the only genuinely free and democratic country with human rights is in the Middle East?
Saudi Arabia.
It's close. It's not that close.
Qatar?
It's not Qatar.
Bahrain?
It's not Bahrain.
Kuwait?
It's not
Yemen? Oh man, we could be here a while. I'm not going to get it.
It's a bit more free than some of them. But
Iraqi democracy, we put that in, right?
Yeah,
that went well.
It worked great.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, the wonderful thing about wars is you can just go in and like if you just bomb some buildings, then all of a sudden a Parisian democracy springs up in the desert.
They got statues of George Bush there thanking him for.
I think I learned that lesson in Team America
when
they bombed the Paris and destroyed the Eiffel Tower.
Right. Yeah.
You remember that, the first scene of it?
So I got the right answer, right?
You've never seen it. What? The first scene of Team America, they're getting terrorist attacks in Paris, so Team America shows up and blows up Paris. But in doing so, they stop the terrorists, so it's all worth it. Cool. It's great. It's funny.
So anyway, thankfully we have Iraqi democracy, so I mean that's what they should really be supporting, right?
Oh, it's hugely democratic, and definitely not just like riven with internecine tribal rivalries. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but yeah, no, Israel is the only free and democratic country in the Middle East, and a lot of Arabs would rather live in Israel than live, elsewhere in the Middle East. And Rivka Brown, as a Jew, would definitely have a better time in Israel than she would.
Wait, she's Jewish?
Yeah. And yeah, it's nuts. This sort of
hilarious.
Woke self-flagellation and self-destruction. Like they want to destroy Western civilization, but they also want to destroy themselves. It's mad. Green politician in Scotland, Maggie Chapman, said, "What's happening in Palestine," bear in mind she calls it Palestine, not Israel, "is a consequence of apartheid." She still uses hashtags like a boomer, of illegal occupation, bit of a typo there, and of imperial aggression by the Israel state. Palestinian civilians have seen their homes destroyed, their water stolen, and their land appropriated illegally. Whatever you say, Maggie. I remember when Scottish politicians wanted to just transition kids instead of transition kids destroy Western.
She probably still wants to do that.
Yeah, that's what I just said. She still wants to do it, but she also wants to.
Don't you feel so represented though, Leo? Don't you love that when Scottish politicians have the same interests that you do?
I don't even think she's Scottish. I think she's from New Zealand. Let me just check. Maggie Chapman. Where is she from?
She's a she/her.
Well, I mean,
feminist.
your first minister isn't from Scotland, so
eco-socialist.
Eco-socialist in the bio.
She's from Zimbabwe, of all places.
She's Rhodesian. And she's like, yeah, what happened there? What happened there? We need that here.
Yeah.
So, everywhere should be Zimbabwe.
I thought Mugabe had brought socialism to Africa. Why did she come here?
So Zimbabwe successfully decolonized itself.
And then she went,
success.
I'm leaving this place.
Yeah. She's like, I want to repeat that success in Scotland. She's from Zimbabwe. This is the trouble. Like, everybody's taking their eye off politics because everybody just wants to watch Strictly Come Dancing and have a wank and, eat some Wagamamas.
So all at the same time?
Nobody's paying it. Yeah, all at the same time. That's what it comes with that bowl. But nobody's paying attention to politics. So then mental people like Maggie Chapman with terrible, nefarious opinions can get into politics while nobody's paying any attention.
God bless Mugabe.
Yeah.
The whole world, a global Zimbabwean order.
Yeah. And then, we've got a video now of your average Western land whale. So we've got sound with this one.
I can't stop thinking about the way that colonization is in
New Zealand
its
on Israel. Okay.
reckoning period across so much of West Africa and Central Africa. We're seeing coups and we're seeing uprisings. And, I'm not an expert on the politics of Israel and Palestine.
Don't put yourself down.
But it is also deeply unsurprising to me seeing what's happening in Palestine. Because everyone is acting, like some people are acting confused, and the instinct here given the complexity, is to see things in terms of this is horrific, what's happened to Israel. But when you all examined colonization and decolonizing, what did you actually think that would look like? Like, for real, it is so interesting watching people comment on this. And it's like this visual struggle of respectability politics and the way that
What?
there should be a diplomatic solution. And
She's like gleeful.
when you are violently oppressed for that long, what do you think the uprising against your oppressors looks like? And I say this as a white person living in colonized Australia on stolen land. Like,
Kill me,
some
daddy.
of you all
I
need a
don't-
bit of a reality check, I think. Because, like, what
Why-
did you think was going to happen?
Why doesn't she get off the stolen land?
Well, she's too fat. But can we?
Well,
we're gonna-
happily, in the next segment, we'll talk about what would happen to her if she was a part of one of those indigenous communities that she so valorizes in her little speech. Why did she have to take so long to say that all?
Yeah.
Like she was obviously choosing her words carefully because she was thinking, how do I say this without sounding like a psychopathic retard?
Yeah, and she still sounded like a
Yeah.
psychopathic retard. And the stuff she said, she's like, "I'm not an expert on Israel and Israel and Palestine." It's like, well, thank you for telling me.
here's my
We could have
opinion
worked that
anyway.
out. Yeah, we could have worked that out. But to say I'm not an expert, but here's why I think the murder of children is justified. That's a pretty bold move. I don't know. I think a lot of people are waking up to the sort of absolute horror that is woke ideology. It used to, when it's all in the abstract, decolonization sounds great, but she's saying this what it is.
This is the face of the white woman
Wants to be killed.
promoting
Yeah.
decolonization.
And this is the face of every white woman who works in HR.
Oh yeah, yeah,
100%.
absolutely, it is.
Just as a warning, we'll have to wrap up soon because we're
All
at
right,
time.
yeah.
But I just love the idea. She's like, "Wow, why do you people engage in respectability politics?" It's like,
Yeah.
sorry, what? Being respectable is now something you shouldn't strive for.
yeah. All right, we'll skip over the next one and go to the. So this is, I mean, you'll have seen this. This is a crowd in Sydney shouting "Gas the Jews," and they've been shouting this at pro-Palestinian demonstrations in other countries as well. I just want to know why it's illegal when Count Dankula does it in a joke, and it's obviously a joke, and he's not glorifying in it, and he obviously doesn't mean it.
Well, you know, this
the joke-
gathering of comedians, I also would spend the free speech.
Yeah,
to-
but how come when these Guardian columnists, when these BBC journalists, when they gather to do it for real, they don't. You know, it's not a crime when they do it. I don't know.
What
I
you
don't
can't
understand
see is the crowds are obscuring all of the small pugs that they're just getting to do a little salute with it. It's just a joke, bro.
If we move on to the next one, so this is so Celtic. If we scroll down, Celtic is a football club in Glasgow. It's
Named
like
after
one of the
Celts.
big two, and it's traditionally been a sort of pro-IRA fan base. And if we scroll down, the stuff, the Palestinian flags actually get delivered there, and they've been holding up things like "Free Palestine, Victory to the Resistance." If we scroll down a bit more,
That is the name of Hamas, by the way. It means
Like the-
Islamic resistance. But
the death skull with the Palestinian, whatever it's called.
that's because they're the good guys.
thing.
Either they just had that in reserve or an NGO provided that to them because you don't get something like that just we need 5 minutes to just mock something up quick.
You can get it
Yeah.
on Redbubble. Don't worry.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it's absolutely mental.
I think Teespring do them now, if you ask politely.
And the BBC refuse to call Hamas terrorists. They've got all this sort of prevaricating nonsense about why they won't call them terrorists, even though they were happy to call the IRA. They said Thatcher and the IRA dealing with terror. So one man's terrorist is another man's not a terrorist.
How does this make you feel, Callum? Do you feel oppressed? Feel like you're being discriminated against?
You leave the Irish out of this.
You're terrorist adjacent.
I can't say anything.
Yeah, this ideology, like bear in mind, I'll just finish on this. Like the Hamas aren't killing for any defined political objective. They're killing out of hatred of Jews. In their charter, it literally says, "We hate Jews and we want to kill them."
That's the political objective.
That is the political objective.
Yeah, but that's not like a like
it's not normal politics.
I mean, if you're defining politics as non-violent passing of policies and putting forward of policies, but politics takes many forms.
But even the IRA, they're a terrorist organization, but they had a defined and plausible political aim. The reunification of Ireland and all that sort of stuff. Whereas Hamas is like, the IRA were never like, we want to take over the whole world. And because Hamas literally want to take over the whole world. They say, the Hamas commander says, the entire planet will be under our law. There'll be no more Jews or Christian traitors.
Well, that's just Muslim groups, though, isn't it, for the most part?
Hamas is an Islamist organization. We believe in what the Prophet Muhammad said, Allah drew the ends of the world near one another for my sake, and I've seen its eastern and western ends. The dominion of my nation would reach those ends that have been drawn near me. The entire 510 million square kilometers of planet Earth, he's measured it. It must be an estate
That was
agent.
Muhammad's most impressive feat.
Well, yeah, he must have had one of those laser pointers. Will come under a system where there's no injustice, no oppression, no Zionism, no treacherous Christianity, and no killings and crimes like those being committed against the Palestinians, against the Arabs, and all of the Arab countries in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and other countries. I mean, Lebanon used to be a majority Christian country, but let's not let that ruin his fantasy. And we can see in Lebanon as well. Lebanon used to be Christian, became majority Arab Muslim, and then now it's an absolute basket case. So yeah, man, that's the when people show you who they are, believe them. And this is Hamas saying, this is the Islamists saying who they are. So yeah, maybe we should just keep Western Europe maybe a little bit free from these ideologies. I don't know.
They just believe in vibes, all right? That's
it's diversity, which is good because it is.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as Lads Hour, this one on Who Would You Spend 48 Hours As. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.